Imagine stepping into your neighborhood supermarket in the year 2030. As you meander between the aisles, the usual suspects, cheeses, succulent meats, silky chocolates, beckon from the shelves. Yet, there is a surreal twist. These delicacies have not seen the sunlit pastures of cows, the bustling barns of chickens, or the tropical groves that yield cocoa pods. Instead, every morsel has been crafted in pristine laboratories, coaxed from the microscopic world by scientists wielding the tools of biotechnology. Not a single animal or traditional crop stands behind the food on your plate. Is this the stuff of science fiction? Or is it the dawn of a food revolution, one quietly being engineered by a new generation of innovators, supported by a surge of European ambition and investment? This transformation is not a distant dream. Right now, the European Union is funneling hundreds of millions of euros into a bold vision to become a world leader in food tech, fueled by the power of fermentation and biotechnology. But can Europe truly reinvent itself as the Silicon Valley of sustainable food? Or will it become entangled in scientific, regulatory, and cultural obstacles that threaten to stall this revolution? To appreciate the scale of what is unfolding, we need to travel back through history. Fermentation is as ancient as civilization itself. Thousands of years ago, early humans discovered the secret talents of wild yeasts and bacteria, using them to turn grains into bubbling beer, grapes into intoxicating wine, and milk into creamy cheese. These ancient processes preserved food, created flavor, and laid the foundation for global cuisines. The Silk Road and Mediterranean trade routes were built, in part, around the exchange of fermented delicacies. Fermentation became more than a survival tactic. It shaped cultures and economies for millennia. Today, a new breed of scientists is pushing fermentation into uncharted territory. Instead of relying on the luck of wild microbes, they program microorganisms, tiny, single-celled powerhouses, to manufacture the exact proteins, fats, and flavors that define our favorite foods. This is called precision fermentation. It is a leap forward as profound as the invention of the steam engine or the arrival of the internet. Imagine the impact of moving from horses to trains, or from handwritten letters to smartphones. That is the magnitude of change at play. Why is the European Union betting so heavily on this technology? The answer is found at the intersection of urgent needs and remarkable opportunities. The European Commission has allocated more than 350 million euros to accelerate fermentation technologies, with the goal of tackling a daunting triple challenge: feeding a growing population, reducing reliance on imported foods, and slashing greenhouse gas emissions to meet the ambitious targets of the European Green Deal. According to the Good Food Institute Europe, if properly supported, the alternative protein sector could generate up to 65 billion euros for Germany alone by the year 2045 and create 250,000 new jobs. Just imagine. A single technological advance, harnessing the microscopic world, could reshape Europe's economy, workforce, and environmental legacy. Let's take a closer look at how this innovation actually works. There are two main branches. The first is biomass fermentation. Here, agricultural byproducts, such as spent grains from breweries or pulp from sugar beets, are fed to protein-rich microbes. These microbes multiply with astonishing speed, transforming low-value leftovers into nutritious, meat-like ingredients. The second branch is precision fermentation. Scientists reprogram microorganisms by giving them genetic instructions to manufacture very specific molecules. Think animal-free whey protein that mimics the taste and texture of milk, chocolate compounds produced without cocoa beans, or sustainable palm oil alternatives brewed entirely in fermentation tanks. European startups like Formo, as well as established giants such as DSM and Novozymes, are at the forefront of this movement. Their laboratories are vibrant hubs where food science, biotechnology, and culinary creativity merge. This is not just a playground for enthusiastic startups. The European Investment Bank has become a major player, injecting significant funds into companies that are scaling up fermentation-based food production. The ambition is sweeping: to make Europe the epicenter of sustainable food innovation. The Horizon Europe program has already invested over 252 million euros in future food research since the year 2020. Remarkably, half of that investment has taken place in the past 2 years, showing just how quickly the momentum is building. In the first half of the year 2024, European fermentation startups raised over 164 million euros, exceeding the entire investment total of the previous year. Biomass fermentation, in particular, has seen a staggering 72% surge in funding. According to Net Zero Insights, nearly 60% of alternative protein funding in early 2024 went to fermentation companies, proof that investors are taking this sector seriously. But, as with any great leap, scaling up is a colossal challenge. Taking these ideas from laboratory beakers to supermarket aisles requires an immense effort. As Helene Groschans from the Good Food Institute Europe explains, governments must step up with grants and loans to help alternative protein companies build the infrastructure they need. Without massive investments in new factories, robust supply chains, and a workforce skilled in biotechnology, these futuristic foods could remain niche curiosities, never reaching the plates of everyday Europeans. Building a single large-scale fermentation plant can cost tens of millions of euros. The transition from producing small pilot batches to thousands of tons per year is fraught with engineering, logistical, and financial hurdles. Pioneering companies like Protein Distillery and Infinite Roots in Germany are showing how it is done. They use byproducts from the brewing industry to cultivate mycoprotein, a protein-rich ingredient with a texture similar to meat. After securing substantial funding, these companies are building new production facilities and partnering with breweries to ensure a steady supply of feedstock. Yet even these trailblazers acknowledge that the journey from laboratory success to mass market adoption is long and uncertain. Layered on top of technical and financial barriers is the formidable regulatory landscape. In the European Union, every new food product must pass through the detailed requirements of the Novel Food Regulation. This means rigorous safety testing, mountains of paperwork, and a lengthy wait for approval. France's Gourmet was the first cultivated meat company to submit an application for approval in the European Union, triggering an 18-month review process. For many startups, this slow pace is deeply frustrating. That is why the European Union is preparing a new Biotech Act, aimed at speeding up approvals and removing unnecessary bottlenecks. The hope is that promising foods will not languish in regulatory purgatory, but instead reach consumers quickly and safely. However, streamlining regulations alone will not solve the biggest challenge: consumer trust. Europeans are famously cautious about genetically modified organisms and so-called ultra-processed foods. Research shows that nearly half of European consumers remain wary of foods made with genetically engineered microbes. The term fermentation may conjure images of bubbling vats and unfamiliar processes, hardly appetizing for many shoppers. Food Fermentation Europe, an industry alliance, is adamant that transparent labeling, robust public education, and uncompromising safety standards are vital to overcoming skepticism. The cautionary tale of margarine in the 20th century, once praised as a miracle food, later shunned over health concerns, shows just how quickly public perception can shift. Winning over skeptical consumers will require more than technological wizardry. It will demand honesty, engagement, and a genuine commitment to health and transparency. Let's envision the possibilities and pitfalls that lie ahead. In the most optimistic scenario, Europe becomes a fertile breeding ground for hundreds of fermentation-based startups. Imagine small towns and rural regions across the continent transformed by biomanufacturing plants, offering new jobs where traditional agriculture has faltered. Urban centers, meanwhile, become hotbeds of scientific discovery and culinary experimentation. If all goes well, by the year 2045, hundreds of thousands of new jobs could be created, breathing new life into cities and countryside alike. But the journey will not be straightforward. Scaling up fermentation requires significant quantities of energy and water. If these resources are not carefully managed, the environmental benefits could be undermined. The energy intensity of industrial fermentation means that using renewable power sources and water-efficient processes will be crucial. Policymakers must strike a delicate balance, encouraging investment and growth without allowing a handful of corporate giants to dominate the market or allowing environmental shortcuts that defeat the purpose of sustainability. The lessons of the past, where unchecked industrialization led to pollution and social inequality, must not be forgotten. Regulation remains a tightrope walk. The European Union's Novel Food Regulation is designed to protect consumers, but its complexity can slow innovation to a crawl. Companies often wait more than 1.5 years for product approval. The upcoming Biotech Act promises to streamline this process, but the proof will be in its implementation. If Europe cannot move swiftly enough, more agile regions like North America and Asia could seize the lead. In the United States, regulatory bodies have already approved several precision-fermented foods, and Asian markets are aggressively pursuing similar innovations. Despite these hurdles, the opportunity is historic. If Europe gets this right, it could significantly reduce food imports, slash emissions, and establish itself as a global hub for sustainable food technology. Envision exporting next-generation cheeses, chocolates, or palm oil alternatives, each produced in fermentation tanks, not on sprawling plantations or animal pastures, to consumers across Asia, North America, and beyond. By the close of this decade, market analysts project that the global precision fermentation market will surpass $18 billion, driven by an insatiable demand for sustainable, animal-free foods. And this revolution does not stop at the dinner table. Precision fermentation is poised to transform industries far beyond food. In pharmaceuticals, for instance, it offers the promise of producing essential medicines without relying on animal testing or rare natural ingredients. In the energy sector, fermentation-based biofuels could be made with far less land and water than conventional crops. Even cosmetics could benefit. With cruelty-free ingredients synthesized by microbes, the ripple effects could touch every facet of our lives, from the energy we consume to the medicines we trust. So what does this mean for you? Whether you are a student, a job seeker, an entrepreneur, an investor, or a policymaker, this is a rare moment in history, a period when the very definition of food is being rewritten. For students and job seekers, the skills of tomorrow are changing fast. Biotechnology, engineering, food science, and data analytics are rapidly becoming as essential as traditional farming or cooking. Universities and technical colleges across Europe are racing to update their curricula, forging partnerships with leading food tech companies to give students hands-on experience in the laboratories of tomorrow. Internships in fermentation startups are now as coveted as placements in traditional food companies. For entrepreneurs and investors, there is a 21st-century gold rush underway. According to Net Zero Insights, investors are eager to fund companies with strong scientific credentials and clear paths to scaling up. The European Union's Electri-FI facility is even targeting early-stage clean energy investments, recognizing that the future of food is inseparable from the future of energy. Savvy entrepreneurs are not just focusing on the finished products, but on the entire value chain, developing sustainable feedstocks, improving fermentation efficiency, designing eco-friendly packaging, and integrating renewable energy sources into their operations. For everyday consumers, these changes promise an unprecedented range of choices, improved nutrition, and a far lighter environmental footprint. Imagine a world where plant-based meats are not just for vegans and vegetarians, but where they taste better, are healthier, and are often more affordable than traditional animal products. The Physicians Association for Nutrition highlights that plant-based meats can reduce LDL cholesterol, improve gut health, and lower the risk of bowel cancer. As production scales up, these foods will become increasingly accessible, moving from specialty stores to mainstream supermarkets across Europe. But there are deeper lessons here about how innovation, public policy, and culture intertwine. The trajectory of European food biotech is not just a technical story. It is a testament to the power of smart regulation, international collaboration, and public education. The European Commission's new strategy includes a dedicated research agenda on food systems, focusing on making next-generation foods tastier, more affordable, and more appealing. It also addresses the confusion that many consumers feel about ultra-processed foods, a confusion that has sometimes slowed the adoption of healthier and more sustainable products. Crystal clear communication, education campaigns, and transparent labeling will be vital to building trust and driving change. The blending of tradition and innovation adds another rich layer to this story. Take koji, the Japanese fungus long used to brew soy sauce and miso. European startups are now harnessing koji's enzymatic abilities to craft new textures and flavors, creating foods that are both sustainable and deeply connected to culinary heritage. This fusion of old-world wisdom and cutting-edge science could yield foods that delight the palate while safeguarding the planet. Imagine sitting down to a meal featuring a plant-based steak, its savory depth achieved through ancient fermentation techniques, paired with a cheese whose tangy complexity owes as much to microbial engineering as to rolling pastures. The implications are even broader. Building a thriving bio-based economy could make Europe more resilient to global shocks. By reducing dependency on volatile supply chains, Europe could better weather crises, from pandemics to geopolitical upheaval. A robust, self-sufficient food system would also support farmers and rural communities as they navigate the transition from conventional agriculture to new, high-tech forms of food production. Policymakers are already exploring public-private partnerships, knowledge-sharing platforms, and incentives for sustainable practices to ensure that the benefits are widely shared. Yet for all its promise, the path ahead is peppered with difficulties. The sector's environmental benefits are striking, Precision fermentation can reduce land use by up to 90% and greenhouse gas emissions by up to 97% compared to conventional animal agriculture, according to research by Malvern Panalytical. However, the process demands energy and water. Ensuring that renewable power and efficient systems become the industry norm will be critical. Policymakers must enact incentives and set high standards, while companies must commit to transparency and continuous improvement. As Marco Marancino from Malvern Panalytical observes, precision fermentation offers a viable path toward a more sustainable and resilient food system, but every revolution has its winners and losers. Traditional farmers may need help to adapt, and some jobs in animal agriculture could disappear. Managing this transition fairly will be a test of political will and social solidarity. Support for retraining, regional investment, and cooperative development will be necessary to ensure that rural communities are not left behind. Can Europe truly seize this moment and lead the world in sustainable food innovation? The answer is yes, but only if investment, regulation, and public trust advance together. The next few years will be decisive. Policymakers must invest in infrastructure, overhaul outdated regulations, and engage the public with honesty and vision. If Europe acts boldly, it can leapfrog the United States and Asia, establishing itself as the benchmark for sustainable food production. If it hesitates, the window of opportunity could close, with more agile competitors taking the lead. Here's a secret that most people do not know. While fermentation may conjure images of cheese or beer, some of Europe's most exciting startups are blending ancient Asian techniques, like the use of koji, with state-of-the-art science to unlock flavors and textures once considered impossible. This cross-pollination of tradition and innovation could transform not only what we eat, but how we think about food itself in the coming decade. So what about you? Would you try a burger born from precision fermentation? Would you trust chocolate crafted by engineered microbes rather than harvested from distant plantations? Share your thoughts in the comments below. And if you are hungry for more insights on the next big breakthroughs in food, technology, and global economics, be sure to subscribe and hit that notification bell. Thank you for watching.